Okay, is everybody seeing me here? Well, I gotta close down some stuff here. It looks like it's affecting the wireless here.
What?
All right, anybody out there?
Yeah, I got
Oh, 7 people. Okay.
10 people.
Somebody say something so I can see if I'm getting any of that.
No, don't worry about it. Just get it back. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
All right, that helps. Yeah, weird how that is different than what you think.
It's flipped.
Yeah, I know. I just don't.
Like this over here is my left hand. This is my right
Yeah,
hand.
this is my right hand. Weird.
Backwards. It's like we're in a mirror. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Question and Answer. Sorry, we're starting just a few minutes behind schedule. He was just getting, situated after getting home.
Late work.
Yeah, this guy, man. They just can't let him go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fun does begin, David.
Yeah.
The fun does begin.
Yeah, welcome from Rexburg, Idaho, Jan. All right.
So, shall we recap? We got some follow-ups?
Oh, yeah, I do, actually. There was someone mentioned that this would be good, possibly good information for everybody. And it's about memories. And I told him I'd mention it. So memories detects or attempts to detect when you are uploading the same image.
Okay.
And so we do that because we don't want to have multiple copies of the same exact image, of course, and just waste this space. Not necessary. So the way that's done actually is they do a computer science algorithm that converts it into hash code. You may have seen it in, you can also think of it as a CRC kind of binary mathematical number generated from all the bits in order. And then they get another picture, the next picture gets uploaded, they calculate this hash code. And if that hash code matches anything else that's already in the system, then we know that picture's already been up there.
Easy.
And so if you get that sort of error in the system, you'll get an error that says something like, let's see, I was going to look here.
I feel like I'm falling off the screen here.
Yeah.
Just sneaking over just a smidgen more. So they can, hey, here we are.
It says, read more. I gotta pull up more.
Okay.
Come on. There we go. So he wanted me to explain how if you get caught in this situation, how you can get around it. So.
Well, while he's doing that, I'll just kind of recover what we talked about last time. We talked a little bit about open edit memories.
Yeah, something in the future that we're talking about.
Right. We talked about GEDCOMs, duplicate sources, maybe they're collapsible, and maybe a shared temple ordinance area. And then last time we were chatting, just to kind of talk about this while he's looking for his stuff, I thought that was an exciting idea. So if you think that's an exciting idea, maybe you could give us your thoughts on a shared temple ordinance area, where you can share and have a communication among your family members of different ordinances or information necessarily that you could allow family members or significant others like that to be able to take the name to the temple, a family name. Because like he always used to say, I remember he used to do this thing in his presentation, I'm sure you've seen it before, where he'd show a picture of a barn, and it was a barn raising. They had like 100 people there. And he would talk about how not everybody is going to be perfect at framing. Not everybody can hang a door square. Not everyone can plan out a building. Some people are just good at sweeping the floor, but the floor still needs to be swept. So I think the shared temple ordinance area gives everyone an opportunity to play their role the best they can and to participate. But if you guys want to give us some thoughts on that while we're talking about it, I thought that was the most exciting idea from last time that we talked a little bit about.
Okay, so the issue is it tells you an error that says it's a duplicate, and so he wants to find the duplicate in order to attach it to a person because he had attached to one person, then he went to another person and said, "Oh, I'll just upload that memory again attached to that other person," and we complained and said it's already up there. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can go to the other person and it'll be attached there, and click on it and go to that memory.
And just to clarify, because we did switch topics very quickly, we're talking about shared memories or photos, duplicate photos.
When you upload more than one copy of the same photo.
Right.
And then so you could go to that other person that's attached to and see the photo, and then you can attach it to somebody else as well. Or you can type the name of the photo in, the file name that you had before into the search, and it'll tell you which picture had that file name.
Interesting.
So that's another way to do it. Anyway, so that's what it was about, just to see how you do that. So what he had done is he'd gotten a record and copied it down to his computer from another site, went to memories and tried to upload and got an error message, duplicate image. Then he went to the select from gallery in the documents field and tried to added the reference to the search and found it. So that's just a little tip on what you can do if you end up getting the error message for multiple copies of the same memory and you try to upload it. Okay, that's all I had. It was just that one thing. I just had to go kind of refresh my mind.
Yeah, just a quick thought for you. David had a question on the shared temple ordinances. We did talk about that last live, so you can always go back and rewatch that. But he's saying this would require an invite into the group, right?
Yeah. The idea with this shared, I call it family reservation lists, because that's the intent. But it can be any group of people. So yeah, you would have to invite a group of people to that shared family reservation list.
And who knows? Maybe it's and
it could be
group of moderators or something.
Well, I could see it being, a group of young men or a group of young women, or
right.
Things like that. We are going to have ward areas, and we're going to have stake areas. So in the future, so you don't need to worry about kind of creating those things. But
right.
Anyway, all right. Do we have questions?
We absolutely do have questions.
All right.
So I guess we'll get started. As we go along, we have questions, but we don't have a ton of questions. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and we'll do our best to get to them. We've probably got 15 questions here, and we may burn through them. Who knows how long it takes.
We'll see how efficient we are today.
All right. So Jared, not Jared, asks, when doing merging, I noticed the possible merge person's birth date, if shown, is often in a odd format. For example, he rattles off a PID. It shows as plus 1789-0804. What's up with that? No idea. But if I had to guess, we can look up the PID, but if I had to guess, based on that 789-0804, I would say that's probably moving it into international format. So that person would have been born August 4th, 1789.
Oh, that's probably true.
Right, because you got to do international format since you're...
Well, but we don't do that in the standardized. That means the person who entered it in that way.
Right, well, he says it pops up that way when you do merging.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Merging doesn't have anything to do with it. Okay, what's the ID?
K2HB-4HF.
Richard Wharton. I assume it's supposed to be Richard, but it's been deleted since then, so it's been merged.
Yeah, he merged this guy.
Okay, so we're gonna go look at the
existing person.
The deleted person.
Okay.
And it said 4th of August, 1789. Okay, now I'll go to the survivor. When you say that so he says when the merging occurred, that's when it happened?
Yeah. So, and if you look at it, it makes total sense because it's literally the year, month, day.
Yeah, but that's not the right thing to show. It should show what they typed in. Yeah. So forward that one to me.
Okay.
That seems like a display problem to me. That it was showing you the calculated date as opposed to what they typed in, and that doesn't work because you don't know the format. You don't know whether it's month first, day first, or what.
Okay. Jared asks another question. When I create a source, the dialog box has a section titled "Select the information or events in this source." When boxes are checked in, that section in the source is saved, and the source is saved, and the program tags those events with this source. But when I use the same source retrieved from my source box, for another person, I don't get the same option.
Yeah. When you, so this is called, we call it, yes, we call it tagging. So you tag a source and say this source is about birth, or this source is about name, or this source is about death. And then it'll show up in the list of sources next to that field. When you use SourceLinker or one of these other attachers, they've kind of built they automatically check the boxes because they are doing an index record, and they know that there's a name in there and a birth in there, so they automatically check the boxes for you.
Even if he's going back to his source box.
No, we haven't got to that point yet. Okay. I'm just talking about if you're using the SourceLinker.
All right.
But if you go to your source box, you create a source and it's in your source box. Now you want to take your source box and attach it to a person.
And tag
the code was written some time ago, and it doesn't automatically select anything. So what you do is you attach it, and then once you've attached it, you can go to the source in the source sections. In the source section, you can click on that source, and you just click on the title of the source. In that title, underneath the title has a menu, and in there it says View, Edit, Detach, Report Abuse, and Tag. And you just click on the little tag menu. It'll give you a drop-down list of the vitals, and you just check the box on all the vitals that this source is about. You click the tag, then you click the tag button, and now that source will appear in those sections. Okay?
No, but he also asked a little bit of a follow-up question inside that. He was just saying, maybe, wouldn't it be possible to in the future, how when he adds the source, it pops up the option to add all the tags. If in the future, when he does it from SourceLinker or SourceBox, it would also pop up a prompt.
Of course, we can write anything in software, giving time, money, and priority.
Okay. He was asking if it would be possible in the future.
I don't know. It seems like a minor thing. So. Okay. The only reason is because probably 90% of our sources now come through SourceLinker and hinting.
Okay.
So anyway, we'll have it on the list, but I suspect it'll be some time before we get to that.
Great. Peggy asks, I'm trying to find 2 cousins and find out they're still alive. And their mother was my dad's sister. I can't find an obituary for any of them, so I'm hoping they're alive. Do you have any suggestions on how to find information on people? How do you do I guess it's research suggestions.
Yeah, but she's trying to find living people.
Understood, but let's just make it about research suggestions, because I think that's really the heart of this question is how would you suggest we do research? How would you say we need to what's the resources like? What kind of things would you suggest?
So well, let's see. She's researching her.
Trying to find 2 cousins and find out they're still alive. Doesn't know if they're dead or not. Their mother was my dad's sister. I can't find an obituary for any of them, but I'm hoping they're alive. Any suggestions? But I'm thinking this more of as a research question. Wow. Any suggestions?
No. You could go and I don't know where you're looking for the death certificates. If you're looking for death certificates, you could find out where they lived. You can go find them in the last census. 1940 would be that one there. Or you can, and then often each state has a database of deceased records, so you could go to that state and look for them in that state. If they happen to be, if you think they happen to be on FamilySearch, if you think they have accounts on FamilySearch, maybe one of them might. Then what I would do is go to to their mother, who's probably deceased, because you said she's deceased, and send them, and then look at the contributors and see if any of them show a name, or send them a message and say, "Hey, I'm looking for the daughters of this mother, because they're my my cousins, and I want to get to know them. So, have any of you out there cousins, or anybody know how I can get a hold of them?
Right.
And you might be lucky."
Yeah, I think out of those ones you suggested, I think the death certificate is a good one. Yeah, it's public record.
Yeah.
So if you know what county they live in, you just need to contact the county registrar and provide the names and say, "I'd like to know if these people are dead," and they'll give you, if they are, then they'll give you a death certificate, or at least tell you.
Yeah, you'd have to pay for it, but if you're seeing it online, then that at least tells you that they're dead or alive. Sure. So,
of course.
There's places you can go look for living people. There's we actually have a collection that has some living people in it. people finder kind of stuff. There's a truepeoplesearch.com Amy suggested. And all of these are trying to find those names in phone books and registries and stuff like that to get their phone number or something like that. So that's one that she uses. She knows how to do stuff, so I suspect that one will work. truepeoplesearch.com.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. For as much as he's a technologist, he's not the best genealogist.
No, I never said I was a genealogist.
So these kind of questions,
I'm a hobbyist kind of person.
you can always reach out to your local family history center. There are some very excellently trained family history consultants around the world, the country, the universe, whatever you want to say. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, Jared was on a spree. Jared, if you're out there, man.
Like question.
Yeah. And in your Roach Tech presentation you put on YouTube, you encouraged us to put up our sources, our struggles, successes, sorrows, family experiences. I'm assuming these would go into my personal memory section. How can I be assured no one but me can see my personal articles while I'm still alive?
Yeah.
Especially if I tag the names of dead people in it.
I think you have, no, that doesn't matter. First off, everything in memories is open to the public. You don't even actually have an account to get there. You just have to know the ID of the memory, and you can get to it without an account or even logging in. So I wouldn't put really super personal ones that are
maybe things you'd like
that
to keep
are
private.
particularly emotional or particularly heart-wrenching or particular ones you're very uncomfortable sharing while you're alive.
Mm-hmm.
I would put the other experiences that you've had. I had this great experience where I've been working hard to do this, struggling about it, and then today I was able to be successful. Those are things you can share and feel good about others seeing that. We are talking about, and it's something I've wanted for some time, but we're finally getting around to maybe being able to start going on this to figure out a way to have private memories where you can set and say nobody can see these until after I'm deceased. And I'd wait for those before you put in particularly sensitive ones or something.
If I can make a suggestion.
Put them in your journal, write them down in your journal.
I was going to say, on that same vein, actually, was what I was going to say. I'm a young guy. I've had a paper journal when I served my mission, and I've had a paper journal for a while. Filled it up, and I decided I wanted to experiment with other options out there. I eventually landed on Microsoft OneNote, actually, because it has a whole bunch of storage, and you can actually lock specific portions of it with a password. So what you could do is you could always type up your journal in there, and if it's particularly sensitive, you can lock a specific page or that kind of stuff, and then just write down the password somewhere someone can find it when that day does come. And that way it's all there, digitized, easy to read, ready to go. They can just copy and paste it up and be done. And then hopefully one day when we have more of a, I guess, secure, I don't know what the word would be, secure type of offering, then maybe you do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Make it simple. All right. Jared asks, any way we could put more than one memory in a source we create from something other than what's on FamilySearch?
No, not currently. Usually people only do that because they're wanting to have the multiple page source, like or multiple pages of a memory, like a front and the back of a picture, or multiple pages of a document or something like that. And we're actually going to work that. We're actually going to fix that another way. We're going to allow, and this is not coming anytime soon, so don't run around telling everybody about this, but announcing that it's coming tomorrow or anything like that. But we're looking at being able to have a memory have multiple images in it. So you can say, this is a photograph of something, and it has the front and the back in the memory. So whenever and it says one whole. So you put the memory into a source, it's one memory, but it has multiple pages. That's right. So imagine a will that you have, but it's you don't have to put it in a PDF. It's like 10 pages. You just put 10 pages and you label them page 1, page 2, page 3, and it's in one memory called this will.
Instead of
multiple ones.
So one, and it's just
your gallery then you'd have one entry in your gallery, and then you open it up and you'd see that it's 10 pages and stuff. So we're talking about this today I was talking about this with the memories team about doing this kind of stuff. And so I think that's probably the direction we're going to end up going.
Right.
So,
right, of course. And to clarify with you, Marilyn, you're right. Family history centers aren't set up to handle living people, but what we were discussing was, family history genealogists and family history and temple consultants, they would know how to maybe contact these agencies
or what
and things,
websites to go look at.
right, to find out if someone was dead.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We understand that it's not necessarily their area of expertise to handle how to track down a living family member, but it very much could be in their expertise on how to find records for someone that is deceased.
Mm-hmm.
And that would help them figure out if the person was alive. Okay. Linda L asks, when I go to standardize a place or date, the yellow light shows click here to select place date. I click, then select standard place date. It does not change to the selection I made. It's still using non-standard. For example, it gives a PID. What am I missing?
All right, what's the PID? That kind of didn't
K8,
help me understand.
K8MZ-DV7.
K8MZ.
DV7. And just read it one more time. So it's standardizing date or place. Yellow thing lights up, says click here.
Yellow
select.
thing.
You know when you go in to type it and it gives you a suggestion and it lights up yellow? Or I guess green.
Green's good.
Yeah, green's good, but she's saying, I know what she's talking about. So if you try changing it to something that's non-standard, see, it's yellow right there. You click here.
All right. This is a very common question.
There you go. Got it.
We're pulling out the old board for this baby. And, we're looking, I think the new, there's a few places we're doing it the new way. If you go look at, I think Memories does the new way. And so you might want to look around at Memories because I think it's already changed to do the new way. We're going to do it a new way. It's still basically the same, but we'll have change in the UI to look a little better. So let's take your example of your particular PID. They have a christening date. And the christening date says 12 January 1912 in the field. And down below in yellow, it says click here to standardize.
Right, or select a date. Yeah.
What does it say?
Click here to select a date. No standard selected. Click here to select a date.
Yeah. Okay, it says no standard. Click to select. And this is the date field of christening. Okay. All right. Now let's see if I can do that and see over here whether you can see that board or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they should be able to see everything. Maybe not the angle. Wrong direction there.
No, it's the right direction. Wrong tool.
All right.
Okay. So it says this. This is the date. Well, there are actually two fields for date. There's also two fields for places as well. In this field is the date that was originally typed. In this field is the standardized date of this date. Does that make sense? It's kind of weird. So let's say this one says, this one may say 12 January 1912. It may say 12 Jan 1912. It may say 12/1/1912. It may say 1/12/1912. These will all be that difference. But down here, we only want one and only one way to say it. And this field is what's used by the computer to search and match up things. It's not using this one because this one is just a bunch of text that doesn't really represent an actual mathematical date. This one represents the actual mathematical date. Okay. Now, usually this only happens when somebody brings something over from a third party or it's old data. Because if you typed this in when you were entering it in on Family Tree, we would automatically have created a standardized for you. Okay. But remember, this is yellow. So all you have to do is it says no standard in here, click to select. When you click that, it will drop down here a list of dates. It'll say 12 January 1912.
Right.
And then you just click it, and then this thing will change to be a standardized date, and now you have a standardized date. And then you save it, and you're done. Now, for those of you who do this on the family tree, you notice when you start typing in something like this, a drop down comes down, right? I got to go backwards. So the drop down goes down here, and it has a list of dates or places, and you select it, it replaces the text in here. Okay, that's because you selected a standard, and so we put the standard here, and we put the standard here. But the reason they have to be separate, let's say it makes more sense if it's a place. So let me tell you, let me go down here, and let me put in a place here.
Sideways handwriting, folks. It's beautiful. Just absolutely
beautiful. So if this is a place, and let's say they put in, they want to be exact as they can.
Right.
So they're going to put in plot 7, Old Tanner Family Farm, Tannerville, Texas, United States,
USA,
or
Earth.
whatever. Right. And so ours, standardized world, we won't have the plot, and we won't have the cemetery. Most places, some places we have the cemetery.
Probably won't have the planet.
Probably won't have that stuff. And so, but we want you to keep this stuff because this is all valuable stuff.
Right.
And so then if you're typing it in Family Tree, we'll take whatever we can here, standardize it, put it in here. If you're doing another system and it doesn't do that, just click this spot and it'll give you all the suggested places that we think match this value. Pick the closest one.
Right.
And then do it. Like take, for instance, let's say that there's somebody there and they're doing stuff in Korea, and we only have, 3/4 of the places in Korea entered in our standard database. We still want you to put the places in here as best as you can with all the details, and then at the end it'll say, South Korea, and then it'll just do a standard of South Korea, which is perfectly fine.
Yep.
Okay. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
Well, to provide
there are
another
two
perspective,
fields.
as I understand it, maybe in layman's terms, because I'm not that smart. The top one is almost like
the type in is what you typed in.
Right, and it's a plain character field. The computer doesn't read that one, but the computer reads the other one. That gives it the actual date, and that's why you need to have a standardized thing because it's in your system, and that's where your computer.
The reason why they're separate is because we may not have all the information from the first one to make a true standard. So sometimes we have to do a partial standard, and we want you to check and make sure we didn't screw up, right? Does that make sense?
Yep. Linda's with us. She says, when I look to see if someone is deceased, I put in a death date range from the last date I found them to be alive to 2018. Yeah, and I guess you got to operate with, I mean, hopefully you have the data, and if you can find the data.
You really need to find out if they're dead or not, because this doesn't, they died. This is kind of a little, feels a little funny here, I saw them in the 1940 census, so I'm going to assume they're dead, and so I'm going to put, they were born, like my mom was born in 1935, so I'm going to put died sometime between 1935 and 2018. Well, she may not be dead.
Right, you need to find.
So you really need to go find, unless it's like you really need to go find the death date, especially if it's recent. If it's within the last 90 years, 110 years, you really need to go find a death certificate,
right,
and find the death information, and before you assume that they're deceased.
David asks, what about remote helper communication? That is, consultant helper in 2 different physical locations. As far as I understood, that wasn't a limitation.
Oh, we don't provide that capability.
Oh.
I mean, certainly the remote helper could be remotely helping you, and you're looking and you're on the telephone talking to each other.
Right, that's what I'm meaning.
But I'm assuming he's saying remote helper communication. That means he's doing stuff, and the consultant has a little face and little like WebEx or something.
A little chat bot.
Yeah.
Kind of deal.
Yeah, that's what I assume you're meaning there, David.
Maybe you can give us a little clarity on
Yeah.
what you were thinking. I had understood it as that.
So I
you're
don't.
trying to.
We're not sure exactly, but certainly if the helper doesn't have to be sitting next to you.
No, because I on my mission we had some instances when they were helping people and they were 20 miles down the road kind of thing, and they would call in and ask for some help on family history. We were doing that kind of stuff. So, let's see. Any other question here? Oh, what about for standardization? Would you prefer Jan or January?
I think either one's fine. I think either one's fine because they're unique. I'd much prefer you putting Jan, Jan, than putting in a 1, because that can be misinterpreted, right? Whether is the 1 the month or is the 1 the day, and so I don't think it matters whether you put Jan or January.
Okay. Let's see. Do we have any other? No. Rhonda asks, is it possible to transfer photos from Google Photos into Memories?
Absolutely. You can actually do it. We released it, not too long ago. It's been about a month or so, a month and a half. Go to your gallery and go click the plus to say, I want to upload some memories. And down on the bottom of that page that comes up when you click the plus, you'll be able to pull in Facebook ones, Twitter. What is the other one? If you go to memories and go to your gallery and then push the plus sign to upload, it will say in that little window that pulls down, you can pull from Instagram, Facebook, and Google Photos. That's been out about a month or so, not very long. So yeah, go there to gallery, do that, and then it'll show you you'll have to log in, and then it shows you your Google Photos. Then you can just select the ones you want and say upload, and it'll bring it into memories.
Okay. This one really isn't a question.
Okay.
It's a comment.
I can respond to comments.
Okay. It's long.
Cut it up. Break it up.
Bosch says they found a Facebook FamilySearch contributor that was changing surnames in Family Tree, putting them all in capital letters. I asked why. She answered me that it was an easy way to find out who is her direct ancestor. She put me the example that Genanet.
Yeah, that's another website.
Has an automatic feature consisting in marking direct ancestors with green circle, and she was trying to imitate that.
Well, it's not appropriate to change the names of people just so you can have your personal line highlighted. You're making it messed up for everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's my comment on that. Don't do that.
Yeah, well, that's what they were saying was he told them that it wasn't efficient to do that, and
it doesn't hurt
agreed
anything.
that we would stop doing it.
Okay.
If I requested to you, she doesn't know English. The implementation of the Genanet feature in FamilySearch. So, is there any possibility?
Well, I'm not interested in open.
Is that something you'd consider?
People have asked about. They've asked before. Sorry, I guess I need to quit doing that because it probably makes noise. Lighten it up a bit. So the people have asked for this before, and it's just a priority question. Plus, it can get sometimes a little confusing because you could be off. Is this a direct line or a line back to you? And what does that mean if you go up and then you go through a spouse and all that stuff? Is the direct line gone? You don't see that anymore. So there's a whole lot of there's a whole lot of questions there. It's been asked before. I'll have to go out to GeniaNet and take a look and see what they do.
Yeah.
But you have to remember that GeniaNet is each person has their own private tree. And odds are in your private tree, you have maybe 10,000 names, maybe 20,000 names. And the family tree has 1.2 billion names. And
technically, they're all related to you somehow.
And if you get into what we call the big tree, the El Gigante, which is pretty much all of the United States, Europe, and a few other countries, you get into the giant tree, there's 400 million people in that tree. So you could be wandering around all over the place, and we'd have to, every time you switch to another person, we'd have to recalculate whether you're related to that person, and then odds are you're not direct line or anything. So it's just a bit more challenging and a little bit unclear how valuable that is. But I get when you start going and you get too far, you can't remember how to get back. We used to, in old NFS, we used to leave little breadcrumbs of all the people that you visited, but it still wasn't nearly the size of the stuff we are now. But,
right.
Okay.
Melinda says, when is it appropriate to add the title of Mr. or Mrs. to a name? There's someone who I share common ancestors with that adds Mr. to all of the male names and Mrs. to all female names.
Yeah, the intent you should only put Mr. if you have no first name. Mr. or Mrs. when you have no first name. That's really the only use for it. Because it allows it to qualify for temple.
Right.
If you have the Mr. in there and no first name. It just seems like it's redundant if you put it in when you have the whole name, because you've already identified the sex as a male or a female, so
right.
You don't need the Mr. or Mrs.
I would also say that Mr. and Mrs. are a genetic quantifier, and they're not relevant to the individual.
Well, especially because we already go down the bottom and check sex as male or female.
Right. It's just unnecessary data.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd even put it in normally. Just when you can't find enough information and you feel like you need to do ordinances, and you can put a Mr. or Mrs. in. But normally I wouldn't put anything in that title.
I've even seen unknown, just unknown.
Yeah,
unknown Jones.
This is a source linker problem. Just recently happened a little while ago, where source linker, if it had a no name in the record, they would stuff it with the word unknown, and that's unacceptable. Right. So I've been working with them. I think they put a fix in today. At least they told me. I haven't gone and tried it, where it's no longer putting unknown. It's going to put. It's either going to, if it has one name, like a first or last, it'll just leave the other blank instead of putting the word unknown all in gaps. And then if it doesn't have any name, I suggested that we not do anything, but or not put it in, or put a question mark like we do in ones that were old. But I think they're going to ask you to enter in a name if there's no name in the record.
Right.
So it's unknown is not a good thing to just put in there with all caps. It's just you have to spot it. It's better. It's easier to find missing names if they're blank.
Mm-hmm. So follow-up question. Elaine says, would it be okay to basically use Mrs. if you have no maiden name?
That would be fine. That'd be fine. Mrs. Joan Smith or something like that. If you don't know her maiden name, that works too.
Yeah. Okay.
But just putting them all with Mr. and Mrs. is redundant. How do you keep track of what you have looked at or worked on already? I feel like I'm ping-ponging all over my tree. Well, most people use the recents. There's a recents list. Now, it only keeps the last 50 that you looked at. But, unless you're really jumping everywhere in short brief of time, odds are that you can get back to where you were, at least back to one of the last previous 50.
Yeah.
So I go to recents, and it's ordered by the most recent one that you've been on all the way to the oldest one you've been on. And so that's a good place to go to find your list and say, oh, yeah, that's the one I want to go back to. And click that name, and boom, you're right back to that person.
Very good.
So recents is under family tree, and it's a sub-menu there. So
very good.
Okay.
Jim asks, I want to add a family that lived in the same town as my ancestor. I have the entire family but have not made a connection to anyone in the tree. How does FamilySearch feel about adding the family? He'd like to try and use Source Finder to try and look for additional sources, but they'd be unconnected. Do you have any recommendations if you don't want an orphan family added to FamilySearch? Essentially, his question has to do with, I want to add a family that lived in the same town as my ancestor, was also born in Italy with the same last name as my ancestor. I have the entire family but have not made a connection to anyone in the tree. How does FamilySearch feel about adding the family? Parentheses. Mm-hmm. I would like the Source Finder to start looking for additional sources. Close. Parentheses. That would be single unconnected family. I assume
Source Finder is the hinting engine.
Right. Do you have recommendations if you don't want?
No. I think you should go ahead and put the whole family in. I think that would be easy to find. The hinting engine will find it, and if people type in a match when they're adding it, it'll find it, especially because the whole family's there, because it has a mother and a father and children, and
Right.
it's always easier for the matching system to find a match when you have spouses and children and stuff, because there's more points of commonality.
Right. And just a philosophical point of view here. I would say that even if you can't find a connection to somebody, it doesn't mean that those people are an orphan. Everybody has a family somewhere.
Yeah.
And you share the data that you have.
Right.
That's the purpose of family trees, for you to put in the knowledge and understanding that you have personally and the evidence and research that you have that'll maybe enable someone else who's thousands of miles away that maybe has a family Bible or a book or something with that name in it saying, I don't understand this, to add and piece these things together. You're just adding another puzzle piece to the giant puzzle that is the family tree. So I think I don't know if I'd say that.
I always recommend that if
Yeah.
you're off doing things, you end up doing research for another line that's not yours, put it in.
Yeah.
That family will thank you when they come to see it, and it's already there, and especially if it has the source.
Yeah, of course. All right. I think that was a good question. That was a good one. I like that one. Okay. Jen says, on April 5th during your video, there was a discussion about sealings. I'm wondering if you can expand on the sealing to grandparents. The question was about sealing to a child born out of wedlock. Is this the only scenario where children would/could be sealed to parents or grandparents instead of their mother or father? Are there other instances?
There's other instances. They usually involve, living issues. Like, for instance, maybe the parents were excommunicated, and so but you want to seal the child, and you can't seal the parents, and you can't seal the child to the parent because they were excommunicated in life, and so that requires first presidency approval. And if it's near, then that may or may not happen.
Right.
So there's a few cases where children can be sealed to their grandparents.
Right. Maureen asks a follow-up, and which set of grandparents?
I think that's your choice.
Right. I think that's a personal decision depending on each individual
You
case.
just do it.
Can't make a
that's
rule
right.
of thumb that's like it should be to the paternal grandparents or
Right.
the maternal
Yeah,
grandparents. Depends.
Oftentimes in these cases, there's a relationship between the grandparent and the child. So you can find other information that says that child lived in their house maybe during in a census somewhere, or some documentation that talks about that those set of grandparents willed things to the child or the grandchild. So those are good clues that they probably had some kind of relationship that might be better. I don't think it makes a difference into their eternal realms.
I was just thinking
Whether it
about
goes
that.
to one set of grandparents or the other.
Right. Well, I mean, the goal is that everybody be connected, right? That's the whole
That's
purpose of family tree.
Where you want, yeah.
So,
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Use your best judgment. What you
of
feel
course.
is the best. So when the temple card is printed, Charles was pointing out, when a temple card is printed and you don't really need to put the Mr. and Mrs. You're right. I was talking a little quicker there. But if you just have a last name, or you just are on the person, you don't have to put in a Mr., because when you go to print for temple, it'll notice that there's no first name, and it'll stick Mr. or Mrs. on it
Yeah.
automatically on the
Yeah.
card. So you're right. Yeah, you don't even have to put it in there for that, for temple reasons.
Okay. Charlotte says, the first line, I realize family tree is open edit. That said,
Yeah.
if a person in the tree is completely documented with sources attached, is there a way to flag the person if someone goes to change vital information, parental or spousal relationships?
What does it
She
mean
gives
by
an
flag
example.
a person?
Well, she gives a huge example. Give me a second here. I realize people make mistakes, but blatant changes need to be stopped. There are flags on the person if the birth was before marriage, birth was after death, etc. Isn't there a way for a warning pop up to appear if someone makes such a blatant change? Can completely sourced or documented people be tagged as such? If people want to add sources, memories, etc., to enhance the total picture of the person, that would be fine. But I guess the point is she's asking if there should be a way to for the system to know, oh, well, this person's been sufficiently documented.
How do we know that? That's the struggle with this.
That's a
I get it.
philosophical question.
I get it when we feel somebody is complete, right? We found all the censuses, we have all the vitals and non-vitals in there, and all the relationships are there. I understand that that this person's done. I get it. But as genealogists, that all it takes is one other piece of information that you didn't know you had that you find years later that changes the whole game.
Right. Can I give an example?
Sure.
So I was recently going through our tree, and we've got a very developed family tree, very developed. I mean, even beginning, most of our family members starting back, 6 generations, were all baptized and born into the church, and they all did their family history, and everybody had the ordinances done and everything. And so it's always been a goal of mine to take a name to the temple that was mine, and I've never been able to do it yet. But the other day, I was digging through it again, just fixing data problems and going over things, and one of the new 1940 censuses popped up, and it had a stillborn child on one of my distant relatives that I hadn't even known about. So my point is when can you say data is enough? Because data is always going to be added. Things are always going to be scanned in,
right,
digitized, added. And so as much as we like to say that someone's complete, I don't think we're ever going to have the full picture, ever.
Plus, I'm not sure if you were able to set a flag that says, this is done, what does that do? Does that prevent people from editing? Or do they have to turn off the flag before they can start editing? Sure. I mean, I don't mind slowing people down.
Right.
There's some things that what you're asking for is impedance, and it's our responsibility to try to figure out a way to slow people from changing good data and encourage people to change bad data.
Right.
And we have lots of ideas, and we're making up things all the time to figure out how to solve that problem. We're going through a phase right now where we're redoing the family tree client to make it perform better, and so we haven't been able to devote a lot of time on more impedance things. But you could imagine the system could get a little bit ornery after when we get a chance to go back and really dig in this and start working on it again, which won't be too far along. But imagine if this name had 5 sources on it, and 4 of the 5 sources agree with what was answered, and there's 200 people watching this person, and somebody goes in and it goes to edit, and we go, oh, wait a minute here. There's 5 of the 6 sources match exactly this birth date. Why are you editing this birth date? And oh, by the way, all 200 people are going to be notified of your change within 5 minutes, and they may want to talk to you afterwards, about your change.
That's like kicking out the people that know how to sweep.
So. So I think we can, if we see things that have lots of sources, things that have a lot of information, and it backs up the data on there, I think some of the ideas we have are we just get more ornery. Are you sure you want to change this? Because there's 5 sources that says this is the right answer. Are you really sure you want to change this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Oh, okay. Well, just for your information, there's 200 people watching, and we're going to let them all know 5 minutes after you click the button, we're going to tell them all you changed it to. So Be careful, because when you change it for everybody.
And a quick tip for you, Shirley.
That kind of stuff. I think we need to explore some of those kinds of things first,
right,
before we think about somehow blocking or locking or we did that before, in NFS, and we had a real struggle with it.
And Denise, you and Charlotte had a very similar story there. And my suggestion is, if you haven't already explored, the change log is a pretty good way to be able to, Charlotte, I didn't read all your story. I apologize, as you mentioned, that it took you hours to undo all of the damage. And it should have been a very, go scroll back to where it was good.
Yeah, we're not, we have a weakness right now in Family Tree. Our goal in Family Tree when we started the concept was to make it as fast or faster to restore it to what it was before as it took to mess it up.
Right.
And unfortunately, merge is our most destructive operation. And so Tara out there said, Tara, who was it? No, it was older. Denise mentioned that people go in and completely change the name. And usually the reason why they're changing the name is that you got 2 lines crossed. So you got this line who thinks the great-great-grandpa is John, and you got this line who thinks the great-great-grandpa is Mike. And they're both right. It just so happened that somebody at some time said that this person at this spot was the great-great-grandfather of this line and that line, and that was wrong. And you can usually find that clue by looking there and saying, oh, he's got like 4 wives and 3 sets of parents and
like 40 kids.
40 kids. It's like, well, hold up there, something wrong here. And so what you need to do is split the 2 lines, and that usually means go create a new person, make it all right, put that person as the head of this line, mark these 2 as not a match so they don't get merged again, and then they can go change theirs to Mike, and you can keep yours as John or whatever. That's usually what happens there. So you have to try to understand why they're changing it. Not just thinking they're an idiot because they're changing it. It's like, well, why are they changing it all that much? So they're changing the spouse, and they're changing the kids, and they're changing the parents. Well, they think it's a different person.
Right.
So that means those 2 lines across need to be separated. So go separate the 2 and make your guy right on yours, and then leave theirs like it is the way they have it, and then you're off and running.
Right. And
so,
yes.
another thing is we're going to start. Well, I've been talking to the folks about I want to start being smarter. So when a merge that happens or is working on a merge, I want to warn people, hey, this name is not like that name. This name is too different, or the birthplace of these 2 people is
pretty off.
It's off by more than 5 years, and or the place that they were born was 100 miles away, and in 1840 the average distance a person ever traveled in their life was 3 miles. So the odds are this is not the same person. So start putting these kind of smart warnings in the merge. We also I'm also thinking about a system that watches people that do things like this, like starts to change the name really completely. And then if we detect that, we can pop up some warning and say, hold a minute here, you're changing this name completely. You shouldn't do that. You should go create a new person, get the relationships on that one, move to this one, kind of coach them through that. Because I think they're just trying to make it right. They're not malicious. Most people are not intentionally trying to destroy things.
They're not out for nefarious.
No, they're just trying to make it look like the line they think it ought to look like. So,
right.
All right.
Well, let's wrap up with some. Let's just finish up. There's been a lot of comments.
Okay,
on this
let's
kind
put
of
it.
stuff.
Okay.
So
I feel like
Rebecca.
there's option. Never married. Yes, never married is an option that's been asked, and we are going to do that. We're going to do no children, never had children, and never married. We still have some UI weirdnesses we got to figure out how to do with that never married, but that is something we're going to start doing. Yes. See, Rebecca mentioned she's frustrated when documented dates are changed. Well, that's the idea of if you have sources on there and they match what the date is, then we can get more ornery, right? I had an hours-long cleanup. Yeah, that's unfortunate. With our new backend interface with Family Tree, that we have some options that will help in restoring things back better. As Cindy says, my experience has been that when there are changes so different from the sources as usually someone new to the tree, and they simply need to learn to some sort of pop-up notice that there is documented source to check would likely solve a lot. Yeah. So yes, times and geography are often overlooked, and warnings would help teach. So the warnings help teach for them what to look for. So hopefully it makes them be smarter.
Teach the people that can sweep how to hammer it in.
Yeah. Is that everything?
Well, I mean, we could keep going.
Let's do one more question.
I don't know if you had anything else.
I think we started a few minutes late. Let's do one more question.
Okay. Amy asks, sometimes when I'm looking at a census record for an individual, I find the individual's son and family living in the dwelling number right above or below. It would be wonderful.
I find the family's son. Oh, okay. Is that what she said?
Sometimes when I look at the census record, I find the individual's son and family living in the dwelling number.
Oh, okay.
It would be wonderful if I could click on the individual's index name and then somehow save it to him. Is that possible? Because right now I have to open up a tab, go to the person's page, and search for the census record there, find it, and attach it. It would be way easier if I could do that in the record.
Yeah. Well, we are thinking about some different ways of attaching sources. And I will take that back as we have a design. I think it will work for you, but I'll go back and take that. So email me that one. And it's a good example of support for the way I want to make some changes in there. Okay. Hey, thanks everybody. Once again, sorry that we ran a little late because we started a little late, about 15 minutes late, but thanks for hanging in there with us. Jared says I was a little, grumpy today, and I probably am, so I apologize if I was a little grumpy. I try to be happy and stuff.
I think he's just tired.
We had an interesting evening last night. That's kind of affected me a little bit. I got to bed late last night because I was working on stuff. And
2:03 in the morning.
Yeah, so I got to bed about midnight.
We're both tired.
And then at 2:00 in the morning, our smoke alarms went off in the house. Freaked everybody out. They're, of course, noisier than heck. And we got a lot of smoke alarms, like 15 or 20 or whatever, and they're all going off. And so we're jumping up and running around to see what's the matter. And we run downstairs, and sure enough, there's one smoke alarm that says it's the culprit, even though they're all going off, right?
Right. It says it's the
saying
source.
I'm the one that's got it, and it's claiming that we have some sort of natural gas leak that it's sniffing. And I think its sniffer is busted because
it shut itself off.
Yeah, we couldn't smell anything. Everything was turned off. There was no gas because it's hot, so we're not running any heaters or anything like that. The only gas that's running is the furnace in the basement, and that one didn't go off. So so it's going off, and we're trying to figure out how to reset it. It says when it goes off, you're supposed to reset it so it'll sense again.
So here we are, both half asleep.
So
trying to read a manual.
He's sitting on a chair. I'm reading through the manual. He's like, "Hurry up," because it's going
Sick and tired of hearing it.
And it's like been going for 10, 15 minutes, and so I said, "Okay, well, it says here instruction, Jarrett." He climbs up on a chair to just push this button and hold it for 10 seconds or until the blue light comes on. So he pushes that button. And it just gets worse.
I held it for like 15
it's like
or
testing
20
the
seconds.
system, and all of them go off.
In the entire house.
They all shut up except for the one. And then we went to push that button. It just set them all off again. So now it's like 12:30 now, and that's going off.
No, like 2:30.
Or 2:30 in the morning. So he gets mad, just rips it off of the ceiling. We pull out the batteries and say, die, and then we put it all back together. And
put it back up, and it's fine. Apparently, the only way to reset those fire alarms is to unplug it, because I think those instructions lie.
I didn't get to bed till like after 3.
Had to get up at 1.
And I had to get up at 6:30 because I had an early morning meeting.
Yeah, see, I'm not as punished as he is. I had to get up at like, I don't know.
9:30.
No. I had to get up early at 8 a.m.
Oh, that's right. You had to go up.
Yeah, I had to get up at 8 a.m. No, not as bad as you, but geez, I was exhausted when I got up.
So I was tired and kind of dragging all day today, so I was a little grumpy. So sorry about that. But there you go. You get to know that I'm grumpy too. Sometimes.
And we're human beings.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Let's see.
We've got a couple comments in there. You can just tackle real quick.
How about some type of visual notice like a green banner frame on the pedigree and detail page as a constant reminder that you are working on a common tree? Yeah, we actually have some people that are looking into how to help teach people that we're in a common tree, because that's one of the biggest common things that happens. It's already possible to link the same census. Someone was asking about the census.
Yep.
You can link it to him, and he's not saying, Erlen, that he can't link it. It's just he wanted it to do it right there in the source linker. Oh, I guess you can, if it's a son or something of the family, you can, by the way, I didn't even think about this one, but there is a
way to swap
in the source linker,
primary.
there's a person that looks like a little silhouette head. That's the primary person. You can actually click that person and change the primary to be either parents, spouse, or one of the children. So right there in source linker, you can just change the primary person to be the son, and then you can link that same source to that son.
So there's your answer.
The son will show up, and then you can just do attach.
Yep.
And so it'll do it right there in the source linker. It's kind of a semi-hidden thing, but I think Robert talks about it in his Roots Tech presentation, which is also online too. Oh yeah, but Jim, on that, it wasn't a carbon monoxide. It wasn't a CO monitor. It was a gas.
Natural gas.
This thing has a smoke alarm, a CO alarm, and a separate gas alarm. But I think I agree with you though. I think I need a new detector. This morning when I got up at 6 o'clock, I said I got to go buy me 2 new detectors because we had one up in our hallway that used to go off, and now we got this one, so it's time for. Although I replaced all detectors in the entire house about 2 years ago, and so they're all only 2 years old. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Really
It's a great way to
appreciate it.
end. Just
I was
stare
just
the
looking
screen.
at that one and go, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to tackle that one. So Linda offered another suggestion. Oh no, Robert did offer a suggestion for a permanent box that's always open like the Life Sketch. It's really funny how the Life Sketch has turned into the way to leave messages to say, don't change this person.
It's like a
Don't touch it
all
because
scene prompt.
it's at the top of the page and everybody sees it and it's open. So it's just kind of funny how that evolved into that. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening. As always, you can submit questions at any time.
Of course.
You don't have to wait for our next one.
Nope.
Our next one is scheduled for those of you who are here. Where is that? My calendar. I think this next week we're going to be out of town.
Yep.
So I think it is scheduled for the 24th of May. So you can put that in your book. And anything else? I think that's it. Thank you very much. We'll see you. Bye-bye. Have a good evening. Let me find my mouse.
Where's your mouse?
Can't find my mouse. Just clicker.